I've got some really exciting news for Panasonic customers. We've got the full detailed leak specifications behind the Panasonic S5 Mark II. We also have some specs on another camera, the Panasonic S5 II X. But there's something strange in the focus technology. Details coming up, but first I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so that way you're kept up to date on all the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. Digicami Just Info just released the full leak specifications for the Panasonic S5 Mark II, and we got some information about the Panasonic S5 II X. And as you can see from this detailed PDF here, which is some 30 plus pages long, we've got full specifications, complete details, and I'm going to have a copy of this file in my description down below. So let's get right to some of the big highlights. The Panasonic S5 Mark II has a 24 megapixel sensor, not 33 megapixels as we conjectured, but 24.2 megapixels. So that's pretty much the same as the S5 Mark I. Now, in terms of high-speed continuous still shooting, well, I got this partly correct. 9 frames per second mechanical and 30 frames per second electronic. We've got multiple 6K resolutions. We have 6K at 3x2 offering 10-bit 420 long op and H.265. No all-I mentioned here in any way whatsoever. We also have 6K at 17x9, again 420, 10-bit and long op H.265. Now, of course, this wouldn't be Panasonic with lots of options with 10-bit 420, 10-bit 422. In 4K, we have UHD and DCI 4K, 6K oversample 4K, giving us 10-bit 422, 10-bit 420, H.265. But in full HD, we can record up to 120 frames per second, so no 4K 120. I know some were hoping for that, but we can do 120 frames per second in full HD. It also does time-lapse and vlog, 14 plus stops of dynamic range. And of course, if you want to see a full list of all the resolutions and refresh rates, I highly recommend downloading the file that I have in the link below, where you're going to see everything. Like I said, there's over 30 pages of full specifications on the Panasonic S5 Mark II. Now, when it comes to anamorphic de-squeezing, we have 2, 1.8, 1.5, 1.33, and 1.3. And of course, you can turn that off. And of course, it wouldn't be a Panasonic Lumix camera without waveforms and vector scopes. And of course, when you press that record button, guess what? Well, they stay on the screen. Canon, Nikon, Sony, you guys listening? Wouldn't that be awesome? If you're still watching this video, what you're really concerned about is forget all the specifications, Simon. We get the video rates, the resolutions, the refresh rates. We know what Panasonic's capable of doing with the S5. But Simon, you've been telling us all along that this camera is going to have a phase detect autofocus system when everybody else has been saying LiDAR or time of flight or contrast detect. You've been telling us phase detect autofocus system. So is it going to have a phase detect autofocus system? Well, something really interesting. Let's cue up the PDF. And as you can see right here, the focus type, look at this, phase detection autofocus system, but then a / contrast autofocus system. So it looks like it's going to have both a phase detection autofocus system and a contrast detect autofocus system, but look at the line down below. DFD technology, yes. I feel like scratching my head. I don't know what to think here. It's great that it's got a phase detect autofocus system, and what we've seen with other cameras in the past is when it has both a depth from defocus or contrast detect autofocus system and a phase detect autofocus systems. When it comes to the video modes, the phase detect autofocus system runs the show. That's what's going on. However, when you're doing photos or some of the other modes, you're running a depth from defocus autofocus system. I certainly hope Panasonic hasn't done anything crazy like kind of merge both of them together in video and let it pick which is the best for us. Whoa, that would be a total mess. But again, these are full leak specifications. We do have a phase detect autofocus system with a Panasonic S5 Mark II as well as the S5 Mark II X. So that's really, really good news. I'm super excited to get that actually confirmed, but we'll just have to wait to see what it means by having a DFD autofocus technology in this camera. What does it mean? What modes does it operate? What is it responsible for? Panasonic, you're keeping this interesting all along, and it's not even New Year's yet. Look at all the news we're getting between Christmas and New Year's. Things are just hopping this year. I can't wait to get more information. Oh, super excited. What about you? All right, let's move on to the rest of the specifications. It's got a 3.6 million dot EVF with 120 frames per second refresh rate, and the LCD is touch, of course. It's 3 inches. But what you're really hoping for is that HDMI port. What you're looking for is full size or Type A, and I've got good news in the specifications. We have that full size Type A HDMI port, so no mini, no micro. Unlike the Canon EOS R5. Wow, that hurts, doesn't it, Canon owners? I know, I've got one too, and still that micro port Canon, you better put a full size in the Mark II. I mean, look, Panasonic's done it, and they've got a phase detect autofocus system now too. Right, so what else does this camera have? Well, it has dual SD card slots. Actually, did I read that correctly? Do I remember that correctly? Yep, it is dual SD card slots. It has USB-C, and it's got a headphone jack. It also has an XLR mic that you can connect up, but that's also sold separately. So the specifications for this camera are looking pretty impressive, aren't they? But wait, there's more. We also have specifications for a second Panasonic S5 Mark II. We don't have a whole lot here because we don't have the full leaked set of specifications. It also has a 24.2 megapixel sensor. It's got about the same resolutions of refresh rates, but what's different, and this is nice, another camera that's doing this, it supports Apple ProRes. Now, we don't know if it's Apple ProRes 422, Apple ProRes 444, Apple ProRes RAW, whether it supports Blackmagic RAW, and the list goes on. But to actually have Apple ProRes, I'm really glad to see this starting to become a staple in various products. We saw it in the GH6. We're seeing it here with the Panasonic S5 Mark II. We're seeing it with the Nikon Z9 and others. I really hope that we start to see this in more Canon or more cameras, such as Canon and Nikon. So really good news there. Anything I left out? IP streaming function with Wi-Fi, USB, and wired LAN. So it looks very interesting. I'm super excited. You know, I've been spending the last week or two resting up because I haven't been feeling so well. And I didn't really feel that great today either. I just get this incredible sense of exhaustion, which I'm told is the normal set of symptoms for you-know-what. So, but when I saw this, I've been watching all day long, expecting that we would, the next thing is some more photos, leak specifications, and price. We don't have the pricing yet. And we also don't have the announcement date and the release date. So let's go over some of that stuff. As far as pricing goes, I'm going to kind of hold off on that right now because we've heard some crazy rumors that price could be anywhere. So I just don't even want to talk about that. But for right now, I would just go ahead and take a look at the MSRP price for the Mark I, and then plus or minus 4%. Well, who's kidding who? Plus 4%. And that'll give you a rough ballpark for what the price could be. They could also keep the price the same like Canon did with the R6 Mark II. But in terms of announcement, now there is a chance that we could get the announcement at CES, but keep in mind that Lumix is a division within Panasonic, and Panasonic is a rather large conglomerate, a multinational, and usually what they do at CES, they use it as an opportunity to talk about their education initiatives, their driving initiatives, their appliances, other technologies, cameras, Lumix. It's a rather long video, 90 minutes or so, and it's a little bit dry unless you're interested in that stuff. And I think this is a big deal, a new Panasonic camera with a phase detect autofocus system. What I could see them doing, I think is most likely is in the presentation at the end, they'll kind of hint towards it like they did last year at CES, hinting about the Panasonic GH6. This year, CP Plus is happening February the 2nd, and usually what happens around CP Plus, camera companies don't announce at the show, they show off their wares at the show, but usually the week leading up to CP Plus is when we get the announcements, and that would put us as early as January the 22nd. So I think anywhere from the second week of January up to January the 22nd is when we're most likely going to get a dedicated announcement for the Panasonic S5 Mark II, the S5 Mark II X. And I really do think that Panasonic should celebrate this with a new phase detect autofocus system, assuming that they haven't somehow crippled it with the DFD technology still reigning supreme. But if we have a full brand new phase detect autofocus system, remember what I said when we had that announcement for the PTZ camera? I said, look, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that we're going to see a new phase detect autofocus system. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the final announcement from Panasonic. I'm looking forward to the reviews, because as much as we can talk about rumors here, and even if we have a full set of leaked specifications, there's always a chance that these could be faked somehow, although usually they're not. And usually what happens is when we get a full set of leaked specifications, the announcement is usually pretty close. It's going to be coming pretty soon, so it's pretty exciting. I just want to check one more thing, because I think there was one other thing that was mentioned at Digicami-info. Oh, yes, there is. A Lumix S 14 to 28 millimeter f4 to 5.6 macro, 14 elements in 10 groups, 3 ED lenses, 1 UHR lenses. The shortest distance, whoa, this is nice. Shortest focusing distance is 0.15 meters. Yeah, even with these glasses, the font is really small. Maximum magnification, move that away. Maximum magnification is 0.5x at 28 millimeters and 0.25x at 14 millimeters. Filter size 77 millimeters, a pretty standard one there. Weighs just around a pound at 345 grams, or just under a pound, I should say. and it's 84 by 89.8 millimeters. But lenses are nice, right? But I'm really excited by this new camera. The reason why I'm so excited about Panasonic is because when I was looking at replacing, where is it here? This is the Canon 70D. I bought this in August, right after it came out. We're looking at about, I think, 2013. And I loved the camera. I thought it was terrific with its new phase detect dual pixel autofocus system. It was a pretty forgiving camera. I did use a lot of the dummy modes a lot because I was relatively new to shooting video at the time. And I really liked this camera. I found it a lot of fun. I enjoyed shooting with it. But after about 3 years, I was ready to upgrade and I was ready to move into 4K. And well, they came out with the 80D and basically it was a 70D with just a few minor tweaks. I mean, they could have given us that in a firmware update. Yes, we got an updated image processor, but it wasn't all that terrific. The 90D was much better, but by the time the 90D came around, I was ready to move on to full frame. I was really tired with what Canon was coming out with, and I thought after the EOS R and the RP, I said, that's it. I'm going to go Sony. I started looking at the A7S III, but it was nowhere to be found. I wasn't buying the A7S II when it was already been out for 4 years. So I started looking around at different camera companies. I did look at the Sony A7 III, but again, it was ready for a refresh. So I thought, okay, well, what else could I get? What else should I look at? And I thought, okay, let's take a look at Panasonic. And the GH5, I think, had just come out, and I thought, wow, this sounds like an incredible camera. And a lot of people, a lot of ambassadors of Panasonic were shouting all sorts of amazing video capabilities of the camera. And I thought, I've got to take a serious look at this. And its image stabilization, you could walk with the camera, the Lumix, the GH5, and the image stabilization was cinematically smooth. It was incredible. But then eventually I started seeing all the videos talking about the autofocus system, and I'm a one-person show. I don't want to have to go through the effort of all you have to do to shoot manually. I didn't want to do that. And today I shoot manually quite a bit when I'm shooting product shots or anything like that, but I still really appreciate a phase detect autofocus system because I don't have to worry about any apps to pull the focus, to get everything set up. I can set a shallow depth of field, I can move, and the camera, the lens, they're going to work together. So now that Panasonic has finally come out with a with a phase detect autofocus system, and I was really hoping it was going to be in the GH6. I had high hopes. They didn't do it. I had high hopes for the S1 because I was almost going to buy that camera. I would have bought that camera if it had a phase detect autofocus system. So now that it's got, and it's confirmed that it's got a phase detect autofocus system, not only do I feel vindicated for getting all the rumors and the speculation correct that I did early on, but I'm super excited for Panasonic. I'm super excited for Lumix. I'm super excited for you, Panasonic owners, and for anybody who's with Canon that's frustrated with the third-party lenses that says, I'm leaving, I'm moving. You know, you might want to consider this too, because depending on the reviews of this camera and how well its phase detect autofocus system works, this could be a viable alternative to you as well. When it comes to video shooting, Lumix, they put a lot of goodness into their cameras, and like Canon, and before Canon, they were releasing firmware updates with major enhancements and capabilities. So I'm super excited by what this camera could represent. The first of many cameras by Lumix to have a phase detect autofocus system. And and this is an S5. I can only imagine what the S1, the S1H, and the S1R successors might potentially be. Panasonic, welcome to the 21st century, and I'm excited. And if you've got a spare S5 Mark II X kicking around, please send it my way. I'd be happy to test it out and try it out. I'm super excited for you guys, and I'm super excited for everybody watching at home. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news and rumors, specifically the Panasonic S5 and what it's going to be priced at, both models, as well as the lens, or any other information about the S1, the S1R, or the S1H Mark IIs, well then hit that subscribe button, then choose all notifications, so that way as soon as I publish a video, you can stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors. And if you're interested in buying the old gear, the S1H and the Panasonic GH6 are both on sale at $500 off. At least the S1H is still on sale. I haven't checked the GH6 if it's still on sale at $500 off. That makes me wonder, are they going to do a refresh of the GH6 too? Oh, I certainly hope so. Anyhow, I've got those links down below, but I want to say thank you very much for tuning in. It's a little bit late for Happy Christmas, although we're doing our Christmas on Friday because everybody in this house was sick. And for everybody else, have yourself a Happy New Year's, and we'll see you again soon.